Hey, it's Chris Bentley with the Social 333 podcast. Today, my guest is David G. Henry. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Chris.
Yeah,
Glad to be here.
awesome. Tell a little bit, or the audience, a little bit about yourself and your story and how you got to where you're at right now.
Sure. So I've been in the Dallas area. I got here to Texas as quick as I could in kindergarten and grew up out in Wiley and went to SMU and kind of been here my whole life. Started out in the after SMU, kind of in the advertising business. It was radio stations here for a long time, like KVIL, K Love, some of those stations you may or may not remember, and worked in that business for such a long time. And I guess one of my claim to fames was negotiating the longest radio rights deal in the NFL with Jerry Jones on 105.3 The Fan.
Wow.
So I kind of spent a long time in radio and, met a lot of neat people. I was never on the air, just more general manager sales. Saw kind of the changes coming to that business and really the cell phones. I saw that coming a long time ago. I actually taught at SMU for
Oh, wow.
4 or 5 years as an adjunct. So I kind of realized, I said, radio with all the, podcasts, streaming and everything, I was kind of ahead of my time on that. Started a social media company and got into the aviation business.
Wow.
Started my company, Status Jet.
Yeah, talk a little bit about that, like Status Jet and kind of how you started that. I mean, not everybody has the wherewithal to be like, hey, you know what?
Start a jet company.
Let's start a jet company.
I kind of did. So basically, I was in the social media business and kind of sold that out to a partner. But I went to work with a guy that had an aviation company and a bunch of Ford stores. And I've always liked airplanes. Matter of fact, went to the air show at DFW Airport I was like a little kid, 1973. Got to see the Concorde land, and I've always been enamored by airplanes. I'm not a pilot, but I kind of worked with this guy in Houston. We moved a lot of the operations up here to Dallas, and I decided that I'm going to start my own company, and got a few people to back me, and came up with the name Status Jet, and this is our 11th year so far.
Nice. I know for entrepreneurs, business owners, which is mostly our audience. A lot of them take private planes and flights and stuff like that. I know a lot of people aspire to take private jets, and
Sure.
and now it's become a little bit different where they have like kind of apps where you can go on and like book flights and do different things on private. Like, where is it really right now? Because like I haven't really experienced that yet. I'm trying to experience it, just like
Sure.
any other entrepreneur or business owner or influencer, right? Like they're all trying to do
Mhm.
that. Where do you kind of see it now? Is it like more public than what it was? I know like flying private was like a big thing back in the day. Now it's like if you're, have money like that, you can just kind of fly whenever,
Sure.
or you can buy your own plane like Dan Blazarian, right? It's just like, what is that kind of like right now?
So private aviation, and I'll back up just a little bit. A lot of people think it's just the rich and famous. It's really a time machine. I always talk to clients, it gets you from point A to point B without the hassle, without, if you've got to hit 3 big cities in 1 day or 2 days, it's hard to do that on commercial. But it is, more expensive, but it's kind of the time value of money. There's quite a bit of, it's a very regulated business. So, Status Jet, we go out and source all the aircraft. We're worldwide. We are based in Dallas, but we have as many clients in other places as we do Texas. But there's a lot of people that have, with air travel, delays and, things going on. If you notice, COVID pushed a lot of people into this business. A lot of people that maybe didn't make that leap to go from first class to private, because there is a big difference.
Right.
But it's really it's a business tool. It really allows you to get to multiple points. Like I said, it allows if you're doing team travel, which we do, we fly some basketball and we've done some football and things like that. It just allows you to get there, quicker, easier, and less hassle than going through an airline.
I've seen where, like, Dan Lazarian, for example, like, he leases his out, uh,
Sure.
for a lot. So, like, he bought the jet and then, to have a pilot on staff and then obviously maintenance and fuel and all that good stuff. I'm just going off of what he says.
No, sure.
Um, it's easier to lease it out when he's not using it and then to keep the pilot kind of going and maintenance and all that good stuff. Kind of like,
It also can really save a lot of cost. So, for example, you can own an airplane outright. You can charter. You can get a fractional program, but we also buy and sell aircraft. So there's two ways to have a jet or an airplane, and it's either Part 91, which really means just personal. You can't charter it out for revenue. But then there's Part 135, which is basically what an airline is. So we only deal with Part 135 operators because they've been, a little extra training, they duty daytime, safety issues. So it's a great way to do it. In some cases, if you put the cost of the airplane over here and you look at the operating cost, if you do charter it out, let's say you flew 100 hours a year and you chartered at 300, you could offset 80% on some airplanes, all of your 100 hours.
oh, wow.
So there's a lot of tax advantages when you put it on a 135 because you're getting federal excise tax. Every time you do a trip, you got to, the government gets their tax.
Right.
So on an acquisition, it can really lower the property tax and the sales tax by operating it on a 135 or at least 51% of your flights, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Um, if somebody wanted to get into like aviation, wanted to get not in the flying part of it, but more of like the jet part of
Mhm.
it, like how easy is that, or is there a lot of barriers to it? I don't really know that much about
To,
it, so that's
to,
why I have these questions.
sure, no. So if we're not talking about pilots, so if you're talking about maybe, sales or something like that, I mean, the kind of people we look for, I mean, you're dealing with, the very high net worth people. And I tell our sales department all the time, you have to be the very best because they're accountants, lawyers, all their tax people, they're the very best. So we have to provide a very concierge type service and we have to be good. And I tell them, don't expect an attaboy just for doing your job
Right.
because you're supposed to. So how do you get into it? I think, we look for people that, articulate, educated, and have been at that level dealing with C-suite executives, owners, and doesn't necessarily have to have the aviation experience because, I learned it. I wasn't an expert and I learn it every day. So there's several ways to do it. There's, the FBO side, which is an FBO is a fixed based operator, which is like a terminal. Like if you go to a private airport like Dallas Love Field, there's
Mhm.
7 FBOs, I think. You could go in to work at one of those and kind of work your way into the business or things like that, if that answers your question.
Yeah. One of the things I've seen also is that it'd be like somebody like myself, and I'm not trying to get big headed, but like I've seen like somebody like myself as a like an influencer or like a
Mhm.
big people on social media or something. Not that I am. But I'd be like, hey, like I'm flying out to Vegas for a conference to speak, and the first, I don't know, 10 people that want to come with me get to have, a free book, free
Yeah.
whatever, and people would pay to get on the flight and basically pay my ticket because they're doing the same thing. So I've seen that before too. Have you seen any clever ideas for people that maybe just don't have the funds, want to fly private, is going somewhere away for them to afford the ticket or afford the ride?
And that's a great question. There's been a lot of companies trying to do like an Uber
Mm-hmm.
where they say there's an app. The challenge is that it's so regulated that if you don't have, there's basically 10,000 jets in North America. So if it's, remember, it's Part 91, those you can't put on the charter certificate. So the other half are on charter. So it's very hard to make that work. I'd like to figure that out, in an app, but it's just so regulated that it's hard. The way to do it, you'll see some advertisements for like empty legs or one ways. And some of that's a good way to try to do it. But the challenge is if you have a fixed schedule and you got to be in St. Louis tomorrow at 10 o'clock, there might not be one of those available. So when you look up in the sky and you see a private jet, I'm kind of fudging this a little bit, but probably around 38% of those are empty because they're repositioning. For example, if we have a client going from Austin to LA tomorrow, we may have a plane in Austin. We may have one in Dallas that we have to reposition. So those are opportunities, to maybe get on them for a little less.
So it's kind of like a car rental kind of situation where, they're going to come in and rent a car, and for whatever reason, there's no cars in Miami, Florida, but there's a car in Fort Lauderdale, so they'll drive the Fort Lauderdale car down.
Right.
And then now they have to go back up to Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, it's
kind of like that.
These are airplanes are big metal things that fly through the sky, and there's no inexpensive way to do it.
Okay.
But it's safety's first.
Right.
But there are ways, and we do have people that, if your schedule's flexible, we have a client, I think has a place out in Monterey, and he's like, hey, just let me know between the summer months if you got one moving, so it might be a good deal.
So anywhere you want to go, if I want to take a flight out to Dubai, something like that on a private.
Sure. We just had a flight land in Florida from Germany.
Wow.
So the only place, obviously, we can't fly if there's like a war going on.
Right.
But no, we do quite a bit of inter-Europe flights, a lot of Mexico, obviously U.S., a lot of island stuff. Everywhere it's hard to get to is where private, like the Masters. We just had the Masters last weekend, and we had flights out there. I believe there were over 1,200 jets. It's crazy.
Wow. Yeah, I see them up in the air all the time. I used to live in Addison, so yeah, I'd see private jets all the time. I'd look at it, I'm like, oh yeah. I wonder where that one's going.
Yeah, or who's on it.
Yeah,
it's very private business. We never talk about who our customers are because they don't really want to know you to know.
Where they're going.
Well, think about it. You could be a competitor, and had a client that had a big auction company, and he was adamant when we bought the airplane for him and when we chartered it for him that, hide the tail, because he didn't want his competitors. Why is so-and-so flying to Beverly Hills?
Right.
What's in Beverly Hills that we don't know about, like an art collection or something?
And that we need to know about.
So there's a lot of reasons like that.
If somebody were to try to book a plane or book a ride or anything like that, is there an app? Is there a website anywhere that they can go to find you?
Yes, it's very easy. Just status jet, like jet.com. Elevate your status, jet.com. And all the numbers are on there. You can just hit a button, call us. We're 24/7. And it's not just the jet rental or, the booking. We can provide all the catering, the transportation, which, our team works. They'll be up late at night sometimes because a client changed the time and they've got a van rented or a car or something, or, maybe Disney World tickets. You never know.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of your Facebook posts where like SMU needs a flight or something like that, and like you went ahead and got them.
Oh yeah,
up in the air.
Sure, it's a fun business, but we're in the transportation business, and I always tell our folks, and just be above, just provide that concierge type elevated service. And that's how you get clients back, because they see that and they, we know in any business, there's lots of options, but I think it's our team and our dedication to that really high level service.
Awesome. Well, David, I appreciate you coming on the show.
Well, I appreciate you having me, and just remember statusjet.com. You can reach me there too.
Awesome.
And I appreciate you having me on the show.
Absolutely. You have a great one.
Thank you.